What's good, friends list, episode 112 of the Gamecast coming at you. We've finally gotten our first official look at Call of Duty Vanguard, and the fan reaction seems to be a bit of a mixed bag. With the iconic FPS franchise making its 7th return to World War II, it begs the question, could we ever see Call of Duty slip in a major way? So, this week, we examine the reveal of Call of Duty Vanguard and what Activision and Sledgehammer Games has to do to make sure the franchise's newest release doesn't result in an underwhelming response. Will we see the positive response to Cold War carry over? Can you guess the file size of the Ultimate Edition of this game? Spoilers, it's big. We lay it all out for you. Plus, a remastered collection of some old school GTA favorites look to be on the way, Skyrim is getting yet another re-release, and much, much more coming up on the newest jam-packed episode of the Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Punch it.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and of course PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So, of course, be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz, the whole rigmarole I tell you every week, wherever you get a podcast at. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like and our dope giveaways. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Mike P-Pack. Mike, the age-old question, my man. What's good? What's going on? And of course, what have you been playing?
Yes, sir. I've been actually keeping a little fresh this week. I know you're probably going to talk about it just a little bit, but we got into the game called Bigfoot, which I think it received a pretty large update before we played it. So I've been checking that out. Playing some Phasmophobia also, as there's some updates coming up for that. I dipped my toe into Diablo 2 Remastered, or Resurrected, excuse me. Sorry for misspeaking there. And then also we got some Back 4 Blood in. And outside of that, that's really about it. But I mean, 3 new games in the rotation this week. So
I was going to say that's big for you.
Yeah, I mean, Creatures of Habit, especially me, big old Creature of Habit, but was able to mix it up a little bit this week. So it was nice to play some different games at least. I mean, Diablo 2 tastes the same as Diablo 2, but some of the refreshments definitely give it another. It hits the right nostalgia points, but it also is a little bit of a fresh experience with some of the new graphical improvements and other things. So
yeah, definitely. And I jumped into that over the weekend as well in the closed beta. And I obviously didn't get around to playing as much as you did, but I definitely obviously plan on playing this game. So I was pre-ordering it to begin with just to make sure I wanted to get in there. And it definitely is obviously still one of those things that it's very hard to support Blizzard and Activision right now. But at the same time, I also know that, hey, I'm still supporting the work of the large minority, or the quiet minority, large quiet minority of those. And what I mean by that is the very vast, large group of incredible people who work there, who pour their blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I want to support them. So obviously, if it's one of those, it's a hard thing to balance, because I did feel very weird kind of buying it, if I'm quite honest. But at the same time, one, I want to play this game, but more importantly, I do want to support those people who are now caught up in all of this, then, not rightfully so. Like, it's bullshit. So I want to make sure that they still get the support. And if that means buying the game, it's just such a weird thing. But anyways, talking about the game though in general, I did jump into it. I had a blast with it. I got right towards the first of the end of the first act, if I remember correctly. I haven't played D2 as much as you have. Granted, I played it a lot more when I was younger and stuff like that, but if I remember correctly, yeah, got towards the end of Act 1, and definitely going to jump back into the open beta as well, now that it's here and everything, but definitely did have a great time with it. Obviously, Bigfoot, that we were talking about, really fun. One of those games that I know we always look for, the kind of like, we had with Valheim, that we have with games like Overwatch and different things like that, where you could have people, more so with Overwatch, where it's like, yeah, you could have people who are skilled, but you could also have people who fill in roles and different things like that. But more so with games like this and Valheim and even like 7 Days to Die and different things like that, where you can just, it's another game that you could have that group where the Venn diagram of your friend group can fill in so easily with it that, if it's a game that isn't necessarily a CSGO, a Halo, or anything like that, hey, you like to play competitive, I like to mix in competitive and social, same with Adam. Kyle doesn't play competitive. He just wants to have fun. So it's one of those games that literally anybody who wants to play can play and find a role and fill in and have a blast. Like, I legitimately had a really, really good time playing this game. And, even speaking to the point of, we love playing games like Phasmophobia, and it scratches that similar itch of, you're hunting for something, you're setting up, you're trying to track something, and it's much more, Phasmophobia goes for much more of a horror element, granted, being a, I don't want to say lower end Unity game, but in its design, it is built to be campy. It is built to be very much not necessarily super realistic, but it's very atmospheric. And I think that's what Bigfoot does really well too, is that it is able to tick that mark of atmospherics very, very well, where
absolutely
the environment, the way that Bigfoot interacts, like, you legitimately get like, oh shit, sometimes whenever that fucker comes after you, because you're not expecting it, and it's very hard to get away from him. And it's not obviously the most technical game in the world, but in how you set up to hunt it, it feels like such a good mesh of an actual, it almost feels like if Phasmophobia and what's the game name that we've been playing too earlier this year? God damn it, it's gonna bug me. Adam and I have been playing. We're playing heavily.
7 Days to Die?
No, not 7 Days. Hunt Showdown. Like, it feels it feels like a really good mesh of that, where you are doing an actual like hunting action of this. You're trying to find this monster out there, you're trying to hunt down monsters, but you're also trying to do the back end of hunting, where you're tracking, you're setting up camp, you're trying to find clues of where this could go and markings and things like that I think it just does it so well. And I know you were talking on that too. I don't mean to, I'm sure you have stuff to say on it as well, but I didn't want to run over your thoughts as well on it.
Oh, no, that's okay. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, but the only thing I would really like to expand on it is, like, you definitely made some good points, but I think the way that they kind of make Bigfoot very strong at night and not necessarily weak in the daytime, but he's just not aggro. I think that's a really good way to do it, because there's a hunt mechanic and aspect to it where, we're still learning, and I don't really want to spoil too much, because I think it doesn't really do much in the way of like teaching you how to play the game, which at one point, I think some points it's like, oh, like, I would like a little bit more direction, but this game does it in a really good way, that there's no tutorial, if you will. It's just pretty much go figure it out, which, I think there's a place for it, and this game definitely does a good job at that. But I think, without spoiling too much, because I don't want to make it too easy for people, because I think that's a big part of the allure of this game. But I found out that, like, I was using traps at night with meat in them. So we would put a trap up, throw some meat in it, and try to lure Bigfoot in at night. Well, here, I think he can see you or sense you at night, but one of the daytimes with one of the traps that we set up somewhere else, I had a camera set up on it, and Bigfoot came in the daytime when he's a little bit weaker and got hit by the trap. So there's this element of hunt during the day, but at night you want to hunker down and try to prevent yourself from getting hunted. And I think it's really awesome, and it's a really cool feature. And I just think that between the loot and everything, and there only being a single map, but there's some difficulty sliders that you can customize your experience just a little bit.
Mhm.
And you could play with a human as Bigfoot, or you could play with an AI Bigfoot. I think that it does a lot of things really good, but moreover, like you were saying, I think it scratches that itch of like the co-op mode for us a little bit more. Because even a game like Left 4 Dead, like even though Kyle does enjoy it, I will say like my experience on Left 4 Dead is a little bit different than some other people's, because I do feel like sometimes, like even when we play zombies, like Call of Duty Zombies, like when we played with Kyle, like I'll have to have 1,500 some kills and Kyle has 400. And that's because, yeah, he's like, first person shooters aren't necessarily his strong suit. And to make up for his shortcomings, I'm doing pulling overtime. So it's a little bit exhausting. And I do feel that way a little bit in Bigfoot. Just trying to put as much damage on a Bigfoot as humanly possible. But they have extra objectives that aren't just kill Bigfoot and hunt him, which I think is really cool also. And for it only being a single map with, I think it has a lot of room to grow. It's still in alpha. It's still in early release. They have a lot planned for this game. I think this game has a long way to go upwards, and I'm excited to see what they kind of put out going forward for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm the same way. It's exciting to see where this can probably go.
And it's such a simple yet well done game. And it's that old adage for me that's like, sometimes less is more with these games. You know what I mean? You don't have to have all these wacky, cool, new and crazy mechanics. Sometimes just some pretty straightforward, well done mechanics can also just do the job.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely, and I totally agree. It's definitely it almost has like we're in this like renaissance almost of, how do I want to put this? We're in this renaissance of almost independent games right now. Really, not only we saw that previously with so many 2D indie games. Last decade really. And even a little bit before that, but really in the last decade, we've seen 2D indie games really bolster and become, I don't want to say that they were never viable options to go in and play, but we're much more, hey, we're seeing Celeste, and we're seeing Hades, and and these are newer options, but Limbo, Inside, games like that are being stacked up as Game of the Year contenders. Journey, things like that I don't want to say people, we never talk about. Into the Breach, SteamWorld Dig, and SteamWorld Dig 2 specifically. I fucking love that game. Golf Story, things like that, so many people. Stardew Valley, I'm just going on and on and on. These 2D indie games, Terraria, that we saw bolster for so long and come out as these just huge titles now. And not that, like I said, not that 2D games were ever, hey, this isn't a viable option or anything like that. More so of, we're now seeing this as, people aren't seeing this as a 2D indie game. I feel like we're in that same, renaissance right now, or resurgence, or we're seeing it really for the first time. So really a renaissance of the 3D independent multiplayer game. And I think that's because so many people are gaming on PCs, and gaming in general, but specifically multiplayer gaming is just so big that it gives more avenues now to, people, instead of saying, hey, we want to make, I think most people 112 episodes into the show know me now. I love single player narrative games. I love, single player games. I love multiplayer games, don't get me wrong, but I truly love sitting down with a game and immersing myself in it from a single player standpoint. Where I think now we're at the point where we've seen multiplayer gaming just be this juggernaut that, instead of for so long people or friends or starting out in the industry or wanting to make an independent game, hey, let's make this 2D platform or something like that for our first game or whatnot. We're seeing teams like 1047 Games with, Splitgate be like, we love Halo, we love Portal. Let's combine the two together. Let's make our own shooter. This game that we love, or this idea of this game that we love from two games that we adore, and we think there's a hole in the market that this could fit in. Like, I just think it's really, really, I want to say even revolutionary that we're seeing right now. It's just really, really going to be, I think, such a catalyst for our industry moving forward with, like I said, as many people getting into PC gaming and whatnot, and just gaming in general, but with multiplayer gaming, seeing games like Valheim, Splitgate, things like that just pop up, Phasmophobia, even, Among Us, granted, a multiplayer 2D game, but we're just seeing this renaissance of games like this, that we're continuing to see more and more and more and more and more 3D independent multiplayer games come out that it's like every 3 months, quarterly we're seeing that now, the next big game that comes out of nowhere kind of thing. So it's great. I mean, I truly think we're in a really special spot right now, but I digress. Mike, it's in the Button Mash. If you're new to the show, Button Mash is our quick hit news article section we run through, get you caught up on the news of the week before we get into our bigger stories and big topics of the week that, maybe we want to stretch out a little bit. So Button Mash, of course, let's kick it off with, starting with big news out of Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves officially broke its record player count in June, 3 years after Microsoft Studios published the open world High Seas adventure game. According to a statement published on the Sea of Thieves website, ships on Sea of Thieves waters were at a record-breaking level in June this year, with over 4.8 million players turning to the game. Executive producer Joe Neate said that the studio has been, quote, bowled over, with the response of the Sea of Thieves community, which had returned en masse for the release of the Sea of Thieves: A Pirate's Life. Quote, from your reactions on social media to your fan art and stories of exploring the 5 new tall tales, it's been amazing. And all this excitement resulted in our busiest ever month on the seas, with June seeing 4.8 million active pirates out on the waters, said Neate. NHL 22, Mike, I know you're now jazzed about NHL and I say that both kind of sarcastically and whatnot, but
certainly sarcastically. I am excited, but
yes,
a little bit, tentatively.
Exactly. It's I don't want to even say cautiously optimistic, but you get what I mean. NHL 22 will be skating onto the Xbox Series X and S on October 15th, EA announced today, marking the Hockey Sims debut on the new console generation. In doing so, it will transition to the Frostbite engine, joining Madden and FIFA on EA's proprietary engine. The engine update is a long time coming. Where FIFA transitioned to Frostbite in 2016 and Madden made the move the year after, NHL steadfastly stuck with the Ignite engine introduced at the beginning of the PS4 and Xbox One generation. Doing so allowed it to avoid the myriad tech issues suffered by Madden and FIFA, but also left it noticeably dated. Speaking with IGN, NHL producer Clement Kong said, quote, now is really the time to move to Frostbite now that the series is headed to next-gen consoles. He says the team is also conscious of avoiding the pitfalls that Madden and FIFA had to overcome. Quote, Madden and FIFA had big challenges going into Frostbite, Kwong said. Unfortunately for us, even during work from home, Frostbite has been a multi-year project. We've been integrating it very smoothly. He continues, quote, we want to prioritize not losing feature and being able to add features. So we've really had an eye on the lessons that we learned from the previous generation transition and falling into that trap. In moving to the Frostbite engine, the NHL team is rebuilding all of its arenas around the new lighting engine, allowing for enhanced particle and visual effects on the ice and elsewhere. The character models are also being redone, which should be a relief to fans tired of the caveman-like players populating many of the teams. And I did see, now granted, for years they've been doing now like big name, superstars or whatever you want to call them. Big name players like Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Alexander Ovechkin, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, like all these big players, they do actual face scans for them. They look good. They look like actual the actual fucking players. And I
They
did
don't look like just.
but then there's like, I always thought it was funny, and they still do this, I'm sure, in a lot of sports. I haven't played a ton of sports games in quite a while. I want to say, to be quite honest, and I've been meaning to play the show too, now that it's on Series X, or on my Series X, like in Game Pass. I've been meaning to play the show, but I think the show 16, like in 2017, might have been my last, like, no, I take that back. NHL 17 was the last one, like playing that in 2017. But yeah, like I remember, like, for the longest time, if they ever got a roster update, or if they ever did like, hey, this is a newer player, but he made the lineup, but he's not that big enough, here's your generic white dude. Like like it just, they looked literally like the blanket, like create a pro or like created player like model, and it was just so funny for the longest fucking time. But anyways, it's good to see that they'll actually be moving to more, higher end technology with this. So anyways, though, moving on, Mike, Splitgate that we were just talking about, the portal-based shooter from 1047 Games, will remain in its open beta period for the quote foreseeable future after its recent unexpected popularity has seen more than 10 million users download the game in under 30 days. In a press release, 1047 Games announced that Splitgate will remain in open beta as the studio continues to work on scaling the game. The game's surge in popularity has caused a string of server queues and wait times for players hoping to access the Halo-like shooter. 1047 Games has been active in addressing the strain on its servers through social media and the game's official Discord, whilst at the same time working to increase player capacity on its game. In just the past 4 weeks, the studio's team of just 30 people has increased its server capacity to now support up to 175,000 concurrent players and significantly reduced player wait times, which I have noticed. It's been much easier to just get on and play.
Yeah, the wait time's been 0 minutes on Discord recently, where when I first started trying to play again, it was like 2 hours.
Yeah, it was like 2 hours, then 45 minutes, and then it went to like 15, 20, then the 5, and it was like consistently at 5 for the past week or so. So it's nice to actually see that they're going in that direction. But anyways, Biomutant, the open world RPG from Experiment 101, has sold over 100 million copies, or 100 million, I'm sorry. Well, I saw 101. That is a lot. I was going to say, that's like GTA levels. Has sold over 1 million copies, that's much more accurate, and made its development costs back within its opening week. As confirmed by the developer's parent company, Embracer Group, in its Q1 interim report, Biomutant acted as a key contributor to sales and revenue generated in the quarter. Embracer Group confirmed the success of Biomutant in the report. Quote, the main revenue driver in the quarter was the release of Biomutant from our internal studio, Experiment 101. The report states, so far, the game has sold more than 1 million copies. The full investment into development and marketing, as well as the acquisition cost for Experiment 101 and the IP, was recouped within a week after launch, added Embracer Group. Members of the development team for the highly successful indie game Among Us have taken to social media to call out Fortnite's new imposter mode, which strongly resembles their game. The new game mode, which pits 8 agents against 2 imposters in a battle of wits and espionage, shares an uncanny similarity to Among Us in terms of gameplay and design. After the announcement, which Innersloth confirmed to IGN was not a collaboration between the two games, individual members of the indie studio took to Twitter to share their feelings on the situation. One comment from programmer Gary Porter was quick to point out some similarities between Fortnite's loot control facility and Skeld, the first map to debut in Among Us. Innersloth co-founder Marcus Bromander, better known by his online name Puffballs United, added, quote, we didn't patent the Among Us mechanics. I don't think that leads to a healthy game industry. Is it really that hard to put 10% more effort into putting your own spin on it, though? Wow, some harsh words.
That's pretty, yeah.
Y'all want the tea, as the kids say. Another follow-up in shitty things to happen. Ubisoft Singapore, the studio currently working on Skull and Bones for the past 12 years, is being investigated by a national watchdog for fair and progressive employment practices over claims of sexual harassment and workplace discrimination. Singapore's Tripartite, I am so bad at saying that, Alliance for Fair and Progressive Employment Practices, TAFEP, told the Straits Times that on July 23rd, it had received anonymous feedback to media articles, quote, about allegations of workplace harassment and unfair treatment at Ubisoft's Singapore studio. That feedback was received by TAFEP just days after an investigation by Kotaku was published, featuring interviews with over 20 current and former Ubisoft Singapore staff. Sources report a broad range of issues affecting the studio in recent years, ranging from discriminatory racial pay disparities, sexual harassment, and bullying by managers. The majority of the toxic work conditions allegedly featured under the studio's previous managing director, Hugo Ricoeur. Outriders developer People Can Fly says it doesn't know how many copies the game has sold and hasn't earned any royalties from the game, suggesting it hasn't been profitable from publisher Square Enix. Announced on the developer's investor website, People Can Fly explained that the agreement with Square Enix meant it would receive any royalties for the game's first quarter on sale by August 16, 2021. No funds were transferred, which People Can Fly suggested means that, quote, according to the publisher, the revenues from the sale of the game are lower than the total cost of its production, including quality insurance, distribution, and promotion, which is interesting to see. Original Doom creator John Romero has revealed that he's working on a sequel to Sigil, and this time he'll be using Doom 2. When Romero revealed back in 2018 that Sigil was a thing, fans were excited to experience what is essentially more Doom made by the original creator of the series. Now, 2 years after the release of Sigil, Romero is back with a sequel as reported by Eurogamer. And finally, kind of ending on a lighter note, which Adam and I were kind of talking about earlier this week that we thought was hilarious. Whether or not you played The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, one of Bethesda's game studio's most popular titles, you probably know about the iconic, "Oh, you're finally awake" scene, which plays at the start of the game. You know, when you're in the cart, you're going into the town, yada yada. While the scene is remembered fondly, a former developer recently detailed how the most iconic scene in the game caused headaches for the development team. The news comes from Nate Perkypile, a former developer at Bethesda, who created a Twitter thread explaining how Skyrim's intro caused many issues for the development team. Perkypile explains how the developers could not figure out why the cart would suddenly lose control. Quote, something was telling the cart to just fuck off right away and to get off the road. Nobody knew what was going on at first, Perkypile tweeted. What was the culprit exactly? Well, it turns out that the issue was a bug, as in a virtual bug in the game and not a software bug. That was causing the cart to freak out and fly off the road. Quote, so it turns out there was another bug where the bee in the game couldn't be picked up. So then some potions couldn't be made, he tweeted. That bug got fixed. Only the type of collision put on the bee didn't just let it get picked up. It also made it collide into things. The issue with this digital bee, as Perkypile noted, is that it was an, quote, immovable force of nature, meaning that if the cart and the bee crossed paths at a particular moment in the game, it would cause the cart to freak out and get flung off the road like a medieval rocket ship, which is fucking nutty. And two, I also wanted to kind of throw this in, and then I want to get your thoughts on everything before we get into our big topics, Mike. But there's with QuakeCon starting out today. Quahog. But QuakeCon, if I can talk properly, starting out today, there were a few announcements that came out that I didn't get a chance to throw into the document before we started out. But one of them being The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Anniversary Edition.
Oh yeah! Woo!
So that was announced at BlizzCon, oh god. Was announced at QuakeCon today. Launching on November 11th, obviously. 11/11/11. The, I don't want to say infamous date, but the, popular date that game came out that everyone remembers. But they are releasing an anniversary edition of the game, which includes the Skyrim Special Edition, plus over 500 Creation Club elements. Plus, on top of that, too, if you have the Special Edition of the game, you can upgrade to the Anniversary Edition. Plus, you get a free next-gen upgrade as it's coming to last-gen consoles as well, which I'm trying to look up to see if there's a cost associated with that upgrade. Let's see. Maybe? No, they don't seem to have. There's a link to more info that doesn't have info.
You mean they're not milking Skyrim for any more money than they can?
I mean, they are. That's the thing. It doesn't say if it'll cost to upgrade. I also love this dude's response to Nibel's tweet about this. Just let's be honest, or whenever Nibel like originally tweeted, say, "Oh, this was announced, yada yada," and followed up, "Here's a few more details on it, plus high-res box info," which I found the details now. But somebody responded, "Let's be honest, we really don't need any more details about this," which is great. And then on top of that too, let me pull it up. Quake is getting re-released, and it's getting a 4K upgrade. So Quake is obviously the whole Quake series on Steam, on Game Pass as well too. You can jump in, play that. But it's also getting released on modern consoles and on PC in 4K with all kinds of like additional features to it, which is really crazy. It's getting like cross-play and like there's not really cross progression, but all kinds of stuff with it. Sorry, my dog was like trying to get into a bag. I'm like, no, get out of there. But all kinds of stuff. So you'll get up to 4K resolutions, widescreen resolution support, enhanced models, new lighting, anti-aliasing, the original soundtrack, including the original expansions as well as the new one by Machine Games, and then obviously online multiplayer, but also local multiplayer too. So a lot of cool stuff coming out there. And also too, it's on like I said, it's on like all different consoles. It'll also have mods and everything like that. You can play it on xCloud. But also too, here's a little life hack for you if you want. As of right now, it's technically, you can go on, I'm trying to find the website that it was for sale at. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Here we go. If you go on to, it's indiegala.com, you can buy Quake right now for $126. They're doing a free upgrade with that. Like if you own Quake on Steam right now, you will get the upgrade for free. So, and as of right now, it seems like people are confirming, yeah, it still works. Yeah, it still works. So there you go. So you can get it for free pretty much right now, or next to nothing, basically. You can get the upgrade for free, but you can spend $125 and go and get it. And I'm sure when this goes live tomorrow, you'll be able to get it as well. But after all that, Mike, that is Button Mash. Anything you want to run back before we head into our big topics for the week?
The only thing I really want to touch on, just real briefly, I just want to say shout out to the team. I know I talked about it last week a little bit, making Splitgate at 1046. Mm-hmm. Great. I mean, they've done a really good job supporting it. They've done a really good job continuing to kind of chase their dreams and keep working on a game, which is really nice to see. And then also kind of want to add addendum something that literally just happened and nobody really knew that it was going on, but there is a Twitch Rivals tournament going on literally now as we're recording.
Yeah. That's right.
That's just Halo 2 with a bunch of old Halo MLG like OG guys. Like,
isn't Ninja hosting it?
Ninja is hosting it, but the captains were Walshy, T2, Elamite Warrior, and Ghost Ayami, and they were out actually reprising their old team names. So Straight Rippin', Final Boss, Carbon, and the Agency, which was Elamite's team in Halo 2. And then Ninja, who, as you said and alluded to, hosting the tournament with Twitch Rivals. But they also brought back Puckett and DMAC, who two legendary casters and put a lot of time and effort into the scene. But what I really wanted to say is Ninja, who has been kind of intrinsically tied to Halo for a very, very long time, actually went ahead, and the original prize pool was $50,000. He went ahead and dumped his own $100K into it. So I want to just give a shout out to Ninja for just literally throwing $100,000 at Halo 2, even though he's involved because he's helping with like the casting and everything of it, but he's not in the tournament. But you're talking about a guy who just basically gave away $100,000 at the end of the day. So great work by him. The coverage has been so much fun. I've had a blast watching these old heads go at it, going through nostalgia, watching the old MLG broadcasts on the USA Network on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. when I woke up, and just all kinds of good stuff happening there. So good on them for doing it, and good on Ninja for putting that out there. And as much as the other information on Button Mash is important, You know, I'm a sucker for Halo. Obviously, everyone knows that, and I just wanted to give Ninja a shout out because it literally just happened. Like, it was just announced that was the situation, that he went ahead and donated all that money to the prize pool, which, you know, is just so cool by him. So,
Oh yeah.
that's all I really have. If you have anything else to continue on about, you're more than welcome to at this point in time. The floor is yours, sir.
No, I knew that there was that Twitch Rivals tournament going on. I couldn't remember if that started today or this weekend, so I'm glad you said that. I want to try to find, is it still going on?
It's literally, yeah, they're literally playing the 4v4 portion of it right now.
Is there
There's
a
a Twitch
schedule for it?
I'm not 100% sure if there's a schedule for it where you can
You know
find
what?
it. Maybe it's a Twitch Rivals.
I was going to
Twitch.
say, I'll look it up on Twitch Rivals real quick. I just am
'Cause-
curious about that.
I'm watching it from Ninja's channel. But what's really cool is all the players are streaming their own POVs, so they're kind of
Oh,
juggling
nice.
through them, through their point of view. But
Mhm.
you can also find all those guys on Twitch, which is nice. So,
Yeah, I'm looking it up now.
oh yeah, because Naded's in it. Yeah, like all those guys are playing in it.
So, here we go. Yeah, right now it's... Oh, okay, so it's on the back end of it right now, but I'm sure there'll be VODs of it and everything like
Yep.
that. So I definitely want to watch that. I'm glad you did say that. But yeah, dude, watching all those old heads, like so many memories, especially watching guys like who, you know me, not the best Halo player in the world, but somebody who
Sure.
grew up loving Halo and watching Halo esports and everything. Watching guys like I put Walshy up there as honestly one of the best professional athletes I've ever seen. Like
Mhm.
legitimately, like in my one tweet I put out like, who are your top three athletes from your childhood? And it was like Mario Lemieux. Who was the other one? It was like Mario Lemieux, somebody, I can't remember who I said, and Walshy. Because I was like, I just have such a, you know, soft spot and everything for Halo and Halo esports and
And
like
never
you said-
forget, like, Walshy winning Halo 2 and Halo 3 tournaments. But people often forget that MLG did run Shadowrun tournaments a little bit, and
Mhm.
Final Boss won that. So Walshy, a two-sport athlete, if you will, at the
Yeah.
MLG level.
God, what a game. That needs to come back.
Literally.
That
Do the
needs-
hero shooter the right way, please.
Yeah, I mean that is, you want to like that literally. If you think about it, honestly, that was Shadowrun crawled so Valorant could walk, or whatever it
Yes.
is. Like it really did. If you think about it. Now, granted, there's much more CS:GO shooting mechanics with that, but if you think about how many aspects of that game, and I think that's why I was so connected to Valorant when it first like was being taught, like when Riot first revealed Project A or whatever it was, like that they're doing, hey, we're doing this tactical hero-based shooter, like, and me being so tied to it, I was like, oh shit, like, okay, you know, but yeah, that game, God, they need to bring that back. I tried so hard over last like Christmas, like holiday break to like get that to work. Like when I had a week off of work, like I tried so hard to get that to work. Oh shit. Not that this is completely different, but and totally random, but I just literally saw on what's happening right now on Twitter, OnlyFans is banning sexual explicit content.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that came out today. So
That's like if McDonald's stopped like selling burgers, I guess. But
like, what the fuck else are you going to sign up for?
well,
on
to be fair,
OnlyFans?
there are people on there who like are legitimate models and things like that, or I have seen people like promote stuff like Barb Dunkelman over at Rooster Teeth, like she has an OnlyFans for her fashion and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I see that still going on.
I mean,
but like,
I mean, are people really going to subscribe to your OnlyFans to look at what you fucking wore?
yeah, I mean, and to be fair too, like the people who are like, and I promise we'll get on to the actual show after this, but like seeing people who are like, oh my god, like now you have to get a real job and blah 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 blah, like I think that's bullshit because like personally I think that's bullshit because I'm like, yeah, sex work's real work. I mean, if somebody's willing to pay you and you're, you know, comfortable with showing your boobs and whatever, like, and somebody is willing to do that and you're, you know, a sexually confident person, cool, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think that's a okay thing. But you know, and yeah, that sucks, people are gonna, you know, lose that potentially, but man, I in 2021 I didn't think we'd see that, and I guarantee it's probably because of, you know, like some people are fraudulent, you know, people underage are fraudulently,
Yeah.
you know, finding ways to get on there and do that, and that shit pisses me off so fucking much, because there are people who are legitimately just like, hey, I just want to see adult content, and they're like, no, like, well, we want to be, no, that's the, you know, and that's the whole problem, I think, with a lot of this. But
You know what I have to say, folks. You can edit this out in post show if you really want, but that's spoken like a true OnlyFans subscriber supporter. It sounds like Travis is subscribed to some OnlyFans that he doesn't want to lose. So, man, spoken like a true supporter.
listen, listen, come on now. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, oh, there it is. Anyways, Mike, let's finally head into the bulk of the show for this week, the actual big topics. Granted, we only have a few, so it kind of works. And it was kind of a lighter, I wouldn't say it's a lighter Xbox news week, but there were two things I did want to kind of touch on that I thought were interesting. And obviously the first one being Call of Duty Vanguard. Finally, we are hearing about Call of Duty Vanguard. That is an actual thing. And it's weird because, like, I first was thinking about this when I was putting the show together, and they finally, like, earlier this week, they're like, hey, in Warzone on Thursday, we're going to announce the next Call of Duty. And there were leaks that came out and reports that came out, hey, it's Call of Duty Vanguard and things like that, which I'm one of those people that I completely understand from, you know, the side of, I see both sides of, from a leak standpoint of, hey, you know, I'm somebody who works at X, Y, and Z. I'm X, Y, and Z insider. I'm X, Y, and Z. This person, this is how I make my living reporting on these things. Okay, cool. I understand that. I'd see the developer side of this saying, shit, man, we wanted to reveal that and this and that. That necessarily wasn't the case. And I felt like up until like today, I was like, man, it seems like they're really holding back on announcing the next Call of Duty. Like, it really seems like they're, like, this should have been announced. Like, I remember when they announced, what was it? Was it Black Ops? What was the one in 2018? Black Ops 4?
I don't know. They've made so many of those Black Ops. It's
It was the last, it wasn't Cold War. It was the one before that had Blackout in it. And
yeah, that was Black Ops 4.
Okay, so, yeah, and when they announced that, I remember that they had, when they announced Black Ops 4 and they announced Blackout, they did it in like May. I was like, that's why I was like thinking, and I remember they put out like a teaser for Modern Warfare, the rebooted one, in, I think, right around that same time. So like, when I was seeing this, like, when I was seeing this happen, like, now, I was like, man, that seems really late. Then I looked back and saw that Cold War was announced literally like a week later than this game was. So Vanguard is not that out of the realm of possibility with the announcements, at least, or anything like that. But anyways, though, Vanguard, Call of Duty Vanguard. I had a brain fart there for a second. Anyways, though, Call of Duty Vanguard finally was announced. It's a post-World War II game about hunting down Hitler's successor. This comes from Morgan Park over at PC Gamer. As always, link in the description. Go over there, give Morgan a click, and make sure you check out his work. Anyways, let's get into it. After months of rumors and speculation about just what's going on with Call of Duty this year, Call of Duty Vanguard has officially been confirmed as the next mainline game in the series. Vanguard takes the series back for its 7th time to World War II with a campaign that lead developer Sledgehammer Games hopes will feel new to the series. Sledgehammer, which hasn't led development on a Call of Duty game since 2017's Call of Duty World War II, is shaking things up a bit by setting most of the campaign after the official end of the war. Hitler is dead, the Nazis have lost, but the Allies learn of a troubling plan called Project Phoenix to somehow facilitate Hitler's successor. What the heck does that even mean? Your guess is really as good as mine. Vanguard's main villain is the fictional Heinrich Feisinger, inspired by the real Gestapo operative Heinrich Müller. In 1914, Hitler technically had a real successor, this dude, Karl Dönitz, who immediately surrendered and was eventually convicted of war crimes at the Nuremberg trials. So, Evidently, there's at least a warping of history happening here. I'm crossing my fingers that COD goes even further and delves into historical fiction or even the supernatural in one of its campaigns. Call of Duty is no stranger to campaigns about small special forces teams deploying into hostile countries, but Vanguard's hooks lie in this being a new concept at the end of World War II. To deal with this whole successor problems, the Allies deploy a squad of 4 specialists from 4 countries. Arthur Kingsley, Great Britain, Polina Petrova, Soviet Union, also the woman that's been sniping Warzone winners out of helicopters, Wade Jackson from the USA, and Lucas Riggs from Australia.
They fucking named the guy from the USA Wade.
Wade Jackson, baby. I got a brief glimpse at Vanguard's campaign during a closed press briefing. The mission shown comes early in the campaign, depicting Arthur parachuting behind enemy lines the night before the D-Day invasion. If you thought that you'd get a break from D-Day in World War II games, think again. Arthur barely survives the drop after his parachute burns up mid-fall and has to scourge around for a weapon, eventually looting a Car 98 from a dead soldier. What follows is a stealthy Call of Duty mission that you've probably played before, sneaking around, shooting once you can't hide any longer, all that good stuff. It was familiar, but what stuck me was how brief each firefight was. The player is never exchanging shots with more than 1 or 2 soldiers at a time. Soldiers hunt down Arthur, shooting through wooden doors and restarting the search when he's lost them. The sequence played out more like a stealth action game than a conventional COD level. It's a pretty effective 8-minute demo, but it also seemed very scripted. Every moment and shot was obviously choreographed. Heavily scripted demos can be very effective for a game like The Last of Us Part 2 when showing off the potential of the same scenario to go a different way, but I'm doubtful that's what I saw in Vanguard. It could be that everyone's version of that mission will be identical, which would be a bummer. It wouldn't be the first Call of Duty campaign that turned out to be less unique than a gameplay demo suggested. In a similar briefing held last year for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, we were shown a snippet of the stealthy mission inside the KGB headquarters. The presentation suggested that it'd be an expansive map with lots of options to complete your goal. In reality, it played more like a bundle of linear objectives you could tackle out of order. That's not to say Vanguard's campaign won't be a good time. Gunplay and animations look fantastic, possibly thanks to the return of Modern Warfare's 2019 engine, which is really fucking, like, the physics engine and the graphics engine in that game is truly, I think, really top-notch. Little editorial on my end, but I digress. In truth, most Call of Duty fans won't really know how to feel until we know more about Vanguard's multiplayer. We know Gunsmith is returning and got a taste of the raw destructibility of maps, but Sledgehammer is saving the full multiplayer reveal for a later date. Call of Duty Vanguard is releasing on November 5th. On Call of Duty Warzone side of things, we've also learned the Battle Royale will get a brand new map and a new anti-cheat system in 2021. So, kind of keeping it simple here, Mike. We finally, like I said, have a look at the new Call of Duty in an official capacity. No more, rumored Vanguard, rumored this and that. Because I think so many people felt I don't think I was alone in feeling it felt like it was taking forever to reveal this game. Not in a bad way necessarily, but felt like we should have saw it. But it's officially heading back to World War II. We're going back into World War II. As Morgan said, we're getting D-Day again, naturally, of course, because it's a World War II game. We got to have D-Day in there.
It's like it's such a weird phenomenon, and I'll let you continue and ask the question.
No, go ahead.
But as a history major and a history buff, I'm just gonna nip everyone in the bud right now. If you're crying about going back to World War II, shut the fuck up. It's the one of the single-handed most important events in the history of the universe. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that we know of, so the history of the world.
Yes.
And D-Day is single-handedly the most important operation which accidentally happened in the United States' history, mm-hmm. and it wound up being one of the pivotal points in the war. So if you're crying about it, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear it. You can cry all you want, but as a history buff and a history major, that single-handedly is one of the most influential parts of basically life as we know it. So
right.
Cry all you want, but yeah, that's all I have to say. You can continue your question.
But yes, I totally get what you're saying. Yes, it's one of those things that there's a reason why it keeps coming back to it, especially too. Like I like Morgan's tidbit about fictional history in there and exploring, taking that aspect of it, because I'm somebody who really likes like like when people do fictional history. Like I like taking like realistically, and I know this
like
is
Tarantino.
yes, I was
Inglourious
literally about to
Basterds.
say Tarantino. Like Inglorious Bastards is one of my favorite movies, because of yes, it is very much like there is very much satire elements to it, but it is I love the alternate, like the alt history take on so many of those things, especially in this case World War II. Whenever we're looking at, hey, what if Hitler was assassinated at this movie theater? What if there was this big plan to do that? Spoilers. But like this, playing off of this idea of, yeah, there's a little bit of truth here. What if we peel that back even more? It's very much like, and as somebody who read comics growing up and still does and loves Marvel and DC and stuff like that, especially on the Marvel end, when you see like Captain America, and especially too, if we're talking MCU side of this and the film side of it, looking back and seeing like the first Avenger and seeing, oh, we're going to introduce Hydra and show Hydra in this specific way, where we're not going to necessarily pull a lot of punches when it comes to the war in World War II. And like, you're going to actually see this as mostly a war movie. And, getting to see these alternate realities of this where, oh, what if this style of thing happened? I really like that. So I'm hoping taking this and doing this, we're going to see a fictional version of Hitler's successor, or the plan to bring in Hitler's successor. And, there is a hint of truth to that, because that wasn't necessarily completely false. Obviously, didn't plan out the way that I'm sure they wanted it to, but clearly, hopefully getting to see something like that in more, obviously in a not real world implication way is going to be exciting. So as we kind of continue to get more details regarding this game, obviously, really from all aspects, campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and more, and, even seeing how Warzone's changing with this, every year comes a question with this, Mike. Is this the year that Call of Duty could potentially lose its footing in terms of its popularity, its sales, everything like that? I'm not saying it's going to have a fall off. It's going to have, we've seen it before, but we've seen it resurge. We've seen it like when we've seen it with Advanced Warfare, and especially Infinite Warfare. I believe that's what it was, right? Infinite Warfare was the 2016 one. Yeah. When I tried to literally be Halo. But it's already pegged to be the best-selling game of the year this year. But like, what's next? Like, what is eventually? It's one of those things that people say it with, and I know I seem like I say this once an episode, but I know this is an Xbox show. But as somebody who is a fan of all gaming, people say it a lot with like Naughty Dog. They're like, eventually they're gonna have a not
a critical.
They're gonna have a not critically commercially successful game, right? They're gonna have a bad game, right? Eventually, they can't have banger after banger after banger after banger, like Rockstar too. They can't have these critically,
I mean, with Rockstar, like Red Dead 2 is kind of the stinker for me. Like, no offense, but
but I'm saying on a broad scale, like when you look, when you peel it back, I mean, Red Dead Redemption's in the top like 3 games of the generation for all platforms last, like from a critical standpoint, and on at least on Metacritic and things like that. But it's when you think about it though, and you kind of like look at it, it's like we're going back, and I know, and I agree with you when you're saying, oh, it's important that we go back to World War II, and in the sense of like, don't bitch about like, oh, we're going back to World War II. You just don't like that setting sense, but more so from I'm proposing this from the fact of we are going back to World War II again for the 7th time. Like, do you think eventually the formula of Call of Duty now, after especially we've seen Call of Duty start to dip its toe into the platform end, especially with Warzone and, zombies and whatnot, more so feeling like Fortnite. And I think that, to me, I like that direction it was taking. I don't know if we're going to get that again this year, because we're still kind of getting details on it. It was just announced officially a couple of hours ago. But liking how where Call of Duty's gone, not being necessarily the biggest Call of Duty person out there, but like liking where this is starting to aim to go. Does a game like this kind of going back and just saying, not saying like, oh, like I think from a campaign perspective, this is kind of interesting. I do think the premise could be good if they lean into that, historical fiction, but at the same time, like, we are going back to World War II for the 7th time. We are. I have a feeling this could be not in the sense of like, oh, I don't like exploring this time period, but the gameplay I feel like could eventually just be the same thing. Like, how many times are we going to see the same style of gameplay, I guess, from that end, where it doesn't fall? Do you think that this could potentially be the year that we see, a little bit of slippage from Call of Duty, of people kind of it having another valley like a, Infinite Warfare did, or an Advanced Warfare?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it could be. It just depends. People are talking about Call of Duty going to World War II for the 7th time, but you have to understand, like, whenever you talk about that, you're talking about taking a game that you have to consider Call of Duty 1, you have to consider Call of Duty 2, you have to consider Call of Duty 3, Big Red 1, like you have to, and Call of Duty 3, or Call of Duty 2, Big Red 1, and Call of Duty 3. That's 4 games that were made for not even the original, like the original Call of Duty was PC. Call of Duty 2 is the 360. Some of those games were made on the original Xbox. You're talking about games that are
Big
made
Red
on...
one on Call of Duty, or Call of Duty 2, Big Red one on Xbox.
Yeah, you're talking about some games that are seriously outdated as far as engine is concerned. So at the same time, like, oh, how many times can you shoot people with an MP40 or MP44 or a Thompson submachine gun? Well, if you keep making the games better and better with new features, I can keep shooting people with MP40s for the rest of my life. Like, I play Halo 3 in 2021, so asking me that question is a little different than your common person, but I could see how people could be like, well, it could get a little boring, or it's the same thing over and over again. But people haven't said that about Call of Duty yet, I guess, is my only pushback to it. Could it be the valley? Could it be the peak? Absolutely. But I do think playing a battle royale set in World War II could be relatively interesting, in my opinion. I don't know. I guess my opinion's probably different than most, though, in that regard. I could see it certainly falling off, but to me, I'll probably play this game more than I've ever played any other Call of Duty in a long time. So, going back to probably Modern Warfare 3 or Ghosts, I did play a lot of Ghosts, just a multiplayer form of it. But going back to Ghosts or Modern Warfare 3, this could be the game that I've played the most out of Call of Duty since a long time.
No, definitely. And just to like, not to interrupt you, but it's funny that this pulled out. I had Twitter up still, trying to look up one thing for the show, but somebody posted on Reset Era that, and granted, it was fixed now, it's updated, but I want you to take a guess. The Ultimate Edition of Vanguard.
I don't know, $120.
No, not from a price standpoint.
Oh, okay.
What do you think from a file standpoint this game is? The Ultimate Edition.
175 gigabytes.
270.
270?
270. Now,
what the fuck?
The standalone of this game is only 75. So
Okay.
that's a little bit better. But at the same time, I'm trying to see what this actually fucking includes in here.
Not enough.
Yeah, clearly not
For
enough
270.
stuff. Yeah, clearly not enough stuff. My thing is, like, and we could get back to the actual crux of this conversation in a second. I understand that when you're developing a game that is multi-platform, and especially a large-scale AAA multi-platform game, and you have so many people working on it, you have so many, cooks in the kitchen at times, and I don't mean that in a bad way, not too many cooks. Did you ever see that? But not in that sense, but more so in the sense of you have so many different people working on this project. I understand we're not going to get Nintendo levels of compression, where you have something like Breath of the Wild fit onto a cart and fit very comfortably onto a cart and perform as well as it does on a cart on a handheld for as big and expansive as that game is. Where I understand that you're not going to necessarily have that with large-scale AAA, third-party games. but I feel like there's gotta be like there's gotta be a better way for Activision and their stable of developers who work on Call of Duty, the various Call of Duties and Warzone as well, that there's gotta be a little bit better way to compress, right? Like, just a little bit, because the game's at what, like 150, something like that. Like when you have Warzone installed, like, isn't it like, I know it's like huge. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up now, but it's the fact that you're checking in with one game alone. One game. We're talking one single game. No matter what's included in this or, the standalone of this and yada yada. One single game is 270. You need, if you want everything that you bought with that game, with that version of the game, you need 270 gigabytes. What the actual fuck? Like, there's got to be a better way. And game development is hard, and I don't know how it is, and probably will never know, to that end of it. But holy hell, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better option out there. I mean, I don't know. Anyways, though, Mike. But yeah, it just kind of, like, I do like Call of Duty. I don't dislike, I don't hate it adamantly. I'm not old man yelling at cloud, Grandpa Simpson style. But at the same time, like, Cold War, well, I don't want to say that, because I did buy Black Ops 4 for Blackout when it came out and played it maybe 2 hours, so I wasted $60 there. But yeah, I have gotten my money's worth from Cold War because we've all wanted to play zombies, and we had a good time with it and everything. We still do. And Adam even messaged us today, hey, make sure you guys update new map, like let's get into it this weekend. Sure, definitely. But from a perspective of, I've played maybe 2 other games of Cold War in terms of like the actual like multiplayer end, and maybe a little bit more than that, but like maybe a couple hours, if that. Outside of that, it's like, what else? Like like it seems like the Call of Duty formula is, even Warzone discluded, because I think Warzone does spice it up, and I think Warzone will keep Call of Duty interesting and will keep it viable for a much different audience for a longer time than standalone Call of Duties are. But I feel like it's almost like, and maybe we haven't gotten confirmation on this, but it makes me, the thought of Halo Infinite and how its rumored structure is of, hey, we're going to get multiple campaigns. You're going to buy Halo Infinite as a platform. You're going to invest in Halo Infinite as a platform for years to come. Now, granted, we're not getting a new standalone Halo game every single year moving forward right now. Like, it's not going to be annualized like Call of Duty, but at the same time, though, it sounds like, hey, we're going to get maybe we're going to get a new campaign, with Halo maybe once a year, or, some kind of continuation of the Halo story in this fashion, where that to me sounds much more exciting. That to me makes me want to invest my time and money into that franchise much more than, Call of Duty, Activision saying, hey, no, every year we got to release a new Call of Duty. It's the reason why, from what it sounds like, Bungie said, all right, we're getting the fuck out of our Activision deal right now because we didn't want to put a 2 on Destiny. We had a 10-year plan on Destiny, but Activision said, no, we need to, hey, a couple years later down the road, you gotta release a sequel. We gotta do a sequel. This thing's super successful. We need a follow-up to it, instead of, you look at, even though it's kind of hypocritical with how, World of Warcraft is, where you get expansions every year or two. Like, it could just continue being like that, but I digress. But I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike. But to me, that sounds much more appealing as a game to invest, a series to invest in.
Yeah, I agree. And to just kind of go back to your point about file sizes in general, it's like kind of wild to me, because I feel like game development studios have used have such a crutch in thinking like, oh, everyone's internet's just good. Fuck compiling these files correctly.
Yeah.
Fuck condensing these correctly. We're just gonna put it in one. Like, I think Adam was explaining it to me, and he was explaining to me how files work, and not like how files work, but like exactly how patches like this work, since he works in developing apps and releases patches. He's basically saying like whenever game studios have a big patch and then you patch it and then it takes like 20 minutes to sort the files, that's because these studios are just releasing the patch in one folder. It's just like everything that you just downloaded is in one folder, and now your computer has to follow all these orders that the files give them to correctly put them in the right spots. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but like now my computer, and it takes forever for this to update, whereas, you know, other like Nintendo does a good job at kind of itemizing it, and I think Call of Duty could really benefit from spending a little bit more time or taking more attention to detail and doing it the right way versus just kind of like everyone has good internet now, so fuck them, they can download it and it can take however long it wants to take.
Right, and that does piss me off because like, wow, you and I both have pretty good internet. I mean, especially you have both gig up and gig down. I only have gig down and, you know, whatever it is, 100 up, which is still good. It's still a hell of a lot better than a lot of people. But the fact of the matter being, like, that's still, like, granted, I'm lucky that with my internet having Comcast, I'm in an area that technically doesn't have a data cap right now. If not, I'd be fucked. Like, that would be like the game I could download. Like, I can go through and sift through so many games on my Steam profile here. Go through, and I'm talking games with pretty big footprints that, like, from a asset end that you would imagine, yeah, that's probably got a pretty big footprint. Destiny has, Destiny 2, I should say, 66 gigabytes. 66 for Destiny 2. A huge game.
Yeah.
What else do we have on here? Siege. 47. Now, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I know that is very big. But even then, 67. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a very fucking big game to install. But you get my point, where it's like, all of these games, like heavy asset AAA games, you know, third-party games that are built for multiple platforms that have, and that's with these games are installed with now having a 1440p monitor. Like, I have the, you know, 2K texture packages or 2K textures downloaded and installed on there. That is not a small footprint either. Like, it's wild to me that compression. I know that we've moved off of the original question a little bit, but I just thought
it's relevant.
It's relevant, no, because I think that and I think you're right. I think that is relevant to a degree, because how many people are actually going to, after a while, say, I mean, this is going to be the game, and granted, that was the download size for, like I said, the Ultimate Edition on console, on Xbox. How many people are going to have to say, if they say they buy that and they install that too, like the average gamer, you know, say this is casual gamer who, yeah, the only game I buy is Madden and Call of Duty every year. Okay, and because of that, I'm buying the $120 edition or whatever the Ultimate Edition is. I'm spending $100 on this game, and they just install it and say, cool, I got everything, I'm installing everything. And then they look and they're like, well, there's 1/4 of my fucking hard drive. Actually, more than that, 1/3 of my hard drive, probably closer. Like, that's got to deter people. Like, it's these things, these smaller, I don't want to say smaller things, but things that compound that eventually, like, I think are going to kind of be a tipping point for a lot of people. Maybe that's just me, but I mean, I rarely, like, it's going to be, hey, you install that game, and it unfortunately has to stay on there, because if not, you're fucking stuck with it.
Yeah, like, what good is, like, having a game that's going to be a lot of money, and, like, I'm not going to buy a game for double or triple the original price to get 250 gigs of content that I'm not going to use. And even if you are going to use it, at what cost are you gonna like? Not only are you gonna spend a lot of money on the game when you could just get the $60 one that works fine, you're also then gonna go ahead and use a quarter of your storage. Like, at what cost is it for you to have the collector's edition?
Right. And this is somebody who loves collector's editions. Now, maybe not digital ones. I'm more of a physical guy. Like, I mean, I still look over here and see my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Halo 3 Master Chief Helmet collector's edition from 2007. That's hands down probably my favorite one ever. And I'm lucky that I was able to finally buy that as an adult, because I did not have the money as a kid to buy that. I had the standard. No, I take that back. I had the collector's edition, the like steelbook one, the little thick bitch one. But like I have the Fallout anthology, like fucking what's the nuke gun?
The nuke, like the mini nuke launcher.
Yeah, what's it called?
The Fat Boy. Is it
Fat Boy? Yes, Fat Boy.
Yeah.
The Fat Boy nuke, like the case that it comes in, I have that. Like, I love physical collector's editions, but like the digital ones, I do feel at times are kind of like, you kind of get screwed on that a little bit. But, anyways, I digress with all of that. But it, yeah, dude, it's it's just kind of funny that it's like, eventually, I think this is going to get to a point where this game, like, or this series is going to be at a turning point, really, where people are going to have to say, like, okay, almost to the extent of, and I think, like I said, we were starting to get there. We were starting to slowly see that happen with Call of Duty, where it almost was turning into a platform like a Fortnite, like, you know, with Warzone and whatnot, but more so where I just want to see Call of Duty the platform. And I think most people will eventually feel a lot better with the franchise moving forward if it goes to that end, where it's, hey, you're just installing COD on your computer or on your console or whatever, and yeah, maybe it's a yearly fee you pay. Maybe it's, you know, I can't imagine it's going to be monthly, but yeah, it's every year you pay, almost like Destiny, where Destiny adopts the model. And I think that's just now we're seeing so many free-to-play options start to pop up now where they're becoming such a viable option because people are more willing to throw in $20 to $60 every year for a nice big content expansion when they know that, hey, we're still going to get sprinkled in with free updates, and, you know, the overhead for this game is so low, I'm getting tons of time out of it. It's a well-made game for free that I really don't have to pay if I don't want to, but yeah, it's the ease of it. It's the ease of access. People are willing to pay for the ease of access if it's, hey, I get in, it's next to nothing to pay for this, and yeah, I'm having a great time with it. I've gotten $100 out of this. Yeah, I'll toss them $20 for right now, or yeah, I'll give them $60. Like, yeah, why not? And I think Call of Duty, if it goes in that area, kind of like from what we're hearing Halo Infinite might be doing, you know, that may be the best route for it to be eventually. I think more people would be willing to be like, yeah, I'm going to commit 100 to 200 gigabytes on my hard drive, knowing that I'm always going to have fresh content updates in a much better streamlined manner. There is more, I don't want to say completely, oh, this is more consumer friendly, and that's the crux of the, you know, argument, but it's more of a, it seems like it's like a handshake. It works both ways. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, and maybe I'm just too pie in the sky with this shit, but I don't know. To me, I eventually see the bow breaking on Call of Duty in a, not necessarily a, hey, Call of Duty's done, but, you know, to the extent of, man, you know, it needs to change its approach, I think. I think that's the more, I think it's such an antiquated approach of, that we finally saw big franchises, annualized franchises like Assassin's Creed move away from that, saying, no, we're not going to go back. We're going to, yeah, maybe we'll do a back-to-back year, but we're taking a year off. We're going to adjust some things. We're going to, you know, provide a new approach to this game instead of every year, boom, 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 boom. Everybody, all the development teams are working together on the same engine, just doing different aspects of this game, you know, iterations of it. But I digress, Mike. Let's move into our last news article for this week, and it is a nice report coming out from our friend Wesley LeBlanc over on IGN. Grand Theft Auto Remastered Trilogy is potentially in the works. So, like I said, from Wesley LeBlanc over on IGN, go over there and give Wes a click. Link in the description. Anyways, a new report claims that a Grand Theft Auto Remastered trilogy is on the way from multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch, and it's reportedly due out this fall, which is interesting. This news comes by way of Kotaku, which reports that it has learned from sources that Rockstar Games is remastering Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, and that each game will be remastered in Unreal Engine. They will feature a mix of, quote, new and old graphics, the report reads. According to the report, Rockstar's Scottish branch, Rockstar Dundee, is leading the project and also working with wider Rockstar company to develop the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S ports of Grand Theft Auto 5 scheduled for later this year. Rumors of such a remastered trilogy have been around for years, and they gained even more traction when Rockstar began using DMCA takedowns to remove fan remakes. One of Kotaku's sources told the publication that they saw footage of the remasters running and that the graphics reminded them of a heavily modded version of a classic GTA game. The UI is being remastered for each game too, although the classic style and design of each will remain the same. According to Kotaku, these titles are hoping to, quote, stay true to the PS2 era GTA games as much as possible. Elsewhere in the report, Kotaku says these remasters were originally going to come packaged with next-gen ports of GTA 5 and GTA Online as a bonus, but plans changed, of course, and money talks, I'm sure, obviously. That editorial from me, not Wes. And the trilogy was converted into its own standalone package, set to be released earlier this year. Now, the remastered trilogy is due out this fall, quote, around late October or early November, according to Kotaku. The trilogy will be released on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PS4, PS5, PC, Stadia, mobile devices, and on Switch. However, Kotaku report states the console ports are being prioritized and that the PC and mobile ports could be released next year as a result. While waiting to learn more about the remastered trilogy, check out this story that they linked to over on the revised GTA 3 and Vice City projects that were taken down earlier this year. But it looks like we're getting a new GTA release on the horizon. And the one thing I did hear is it potentially, which I don't necessarily believe, and I'm letting you talk about this, Mike. When I kick it over to you, I'm going to dig around and see if I can find it. But I could have swore that I heard that it could potentially be digital only, which surprises me as well, because I feel like that could be, it's Rockstar. They want to get as much money as possible, specifically Take-Two's aspect. They want to get as much money as possible out of this, and they see how much, obviously, GTA sells, specifically GTA 5 sells. They want to have that physical. So, like I was saying, it looks like we're getting a new GTA release on the horizon. Just not the one many were hoping and necessarily expecting to see, I think. GTA 6. Is this something we can expect from Rockstar moving forward while we see these longer development times between their next titles? Specifically talking GTA 6. I mean, GTA 5 releasing in 2013 and still not, getting an official, hey, it's happening. I mean, at least Bethesda gave us a Elder Scrolls 6 like JPEG out there to say, hey, yes, don't worry, it is happening.
Yeah.
And there are reports and everything circulating around that, of course, GTA 6 is happening, but they're trying to milk every last drop out of GTA 5. But do you see this as being something we can expect from Rockstar maybe moving forward? More remasters, things, like I said, more remasters, remakes, things like that. Is this time that we finally see the long rumored Red Dead Redemption remastered for console and PCs? Like things like that. Like, will we see more of this coming down the pipeline from, I should say, I guess, Rockstar, while we kind of have these long hangover periods of, hey, you're going to get these smaller experiences, these re-releases, things like that. Hey, you remember the games you loved on, Xbox and PS2? Here you go. Like, remastered, upscaled versions of these games. Do you think that's going to be the answer that Rockstar gives us in the chew on this while we work on this? Like, try this appetizer out while we're working on the main dish for a while. Do you think this is probably the answer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's feasible.
And do you think it's a bad answer, too? Just throwing that out there.
I don't think so. I think, I know speaking, like, if I was to put my shoes in a GTA fan's if I was to put my feet in a GTA fan's shoes, I guess is the phrase I was trying to go to, I guess I could see where there would be disappointment because, like you said, we're looking for a new GTA. Like, we're waiting on GTA 6, for God's sakes. We're waiting on this. Like, it all makes sense to me. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of room for people that maybe didn't get to play GTA 1, 2, and 3, or, at the very least, like GTA 1 and 2 were very different games than GTA 3, and GTA 1 and 2 were very different games from Vice City and San Andreas. So
Mhm.
I think there's a potential where there's a very good chance that this remaster will do very well, and
Mhm.
it should. And as far as the question as is this a formula that Rockstar should look to lean in towards, the answer to me is if it's something that won't drain too many of your resources from the new games, why not take
Mhm.
advantage of these games? I mean, it's something where people might complain that, they already have milked a lot of money from this games. And I know it's kind of contradictory because I complain that Bethesda is milking the living shit out of Skyrim.
Mhm.
But at the same token, like, from the flip side, I can see like Bethesda put the hard work into making Skyrim as widely accepted as it is. So why shouldn't they milk everything it's worth?
Mhm.
I want a new game, but like as long as it's not slowing down the new game per se, like I'm fine with it. But also at the same time, like they haven't GTA or Rockstar's really milking GTA 5, but they haven't really milked the older GTA games like we see with EA milking the Mass Effect games now. And we saw how good that turned out. So why wouldn't they take advantage of it? And I think it has a great chance. I'm sure it's going to be difficult to make because there's going to be things about the older GTAs that might not convert well to the Unreal Engine. But at the end of the day, it's their game. And if they want to remake it and make more money off of it, I'm going to take advantage of experiencing it because I did play GTA 3, but I was pretty young. And I think a lot of people can kind of say that like, oh, we're huge GTA fans, but I didn't play it and I haven't played it since I was a young kid. You know what I mean? It's been a long time since I played that game. So that's the only thing that I'll really say about it. I'm excited to see how it is. And like you said, I just hope this means that like Red Dead Redemption 1 is going to get a remaster treatment. Like, not that the game isn't great, like has it aged a little bit weird? Absolutely, most games do. But I would love to get to play it on PC versus on a console and things of that nature. And I think this could open up that door, and I hope it does.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm right there with you. If the bandwidth of the studio allows, specifically with Rockstar, and I think so many people just want things from Rockstar at this point. Like I think they're just at this point like, hey, we don't want to hear from you once every 8 years kind of thing. And I understand that. And 8 years is a little, I don't want to say that. Like they have multiple studios. They're like Ubisoft and EA, and they have multiple studios stretched across, the world at this point. But point being, they don't want to necessarily hear from Rockstar, once every half decade about these franchises that they love so much. Now that they have GTA, their main franchise being, hey, here's GTA. Then Red Dead comes along. Okay, then it's kind of flipping between, GTA 4 to Red Dead to GTA 5 to Red Dead 2. Now GTA 6. It's just a long time between these, two franchises that I think a lot of people are just, hey, why don't you give us more experiences like the Undead Nightmare expansion? Why don't you give us more experience? And there's GTA Online too, which fills a big hole, but I think people just want more proper GTA content, or just, I should say, proper Rockstar content. They love their satirical and, too, from what we've seen with, when we're talking Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically, like more serious storytelling, that they can tell a serious narrative, and not just, dick jokes and, satirical takes on, which are good satirical takes, in my opinion, on society right now. At the same time, though, I think people just want more frequent check-ins from a studio that does have this amount of bandwidth, at least on paper, where they have multiple studios stretched across the world, like I was saying. That I think more people, ever since the days of hearing, oh, we're gonna get more GTA 5 single player content, that never really happening, I think people have been a little burned on that. So having something like this, and I think now knowing, as more info kind of started leaking out about not leaking, but was being reported from a few different outlets saying, hey, GTA is not coming until whatever it was, 2025 or something crazy like that, that we're going to have a 10 plus year gap between games like, Elder Scrolls 5 to 6. And to a degree, I understand that.
Do you really have to pour salt in the wound like that?
Hey, listen, I'm right there fucking with you, so I get it. But from the standpoint of, I always thought it was, and maybe this is me being the optimist out there, but from the standpoint of, I completely understand the mindset of, hey, with Elder Scrolls 6, we've needed to wait to do the same with Starfield. We've needed to wait a little bit to do this because the technology to make the game that we want to make this game and the vision we have for this game isn't there yet. We need, we're going to make this game, we're going to work on making this game, but we can only progress as much as the technology that we're developing and making and working with partners with to develop can go. So, and I know that Rockstar is doing that the same exact way with GTA 6 from what it sounds like. That what they're trying to do for this literal living, breathing world, from what it sounds like, in this open world that is going to transform and evolve over time and have this life to it, from what it sounds like, the tech's probably just not there yet.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure they completely understand the new hardware too, because that's their biggest, install base is the consoles. That's where you're going to have most of, your player base at. So,
especially off the heels of what happened with Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's what I mean, that I think, one, they're going to wait, they're going to make sure they completely understand this tech that they get out and make sure this game comes out in a way, because they don't need to rush this game, period. They really don't. Same with Elder Scrolls 6. As much as it fucking sucks, one, people are going to just fucking buy this game when it comes out. They are. They're, and much more so when we're talking GTA 6. It's the best-selling game of all time. GTA 5 is the best-selling game of all time. To the fact of, it is that blind, people are just going to blindly buy it. Same with Elder Scrolls 6. There are people who are just going to blindly buy this game because it's the follow-up to one of either their favorite games of all time or one of the most successful games of all time, yada yada. They're just going to buy it. And so they can take as much as they want. It's like Half-Life 3. When they're now, for sure, now that Alex came out, I fully believe it may not have a 3 on it, but it may be the third somehow installment, new mainline Half-Life game. It's proper, quote-unquote proper, I guess if you want to say, where you don't need a VR headset or anything like that. I fully believe that's going to happen. They can announce that at any time because they know that Valve knows it'll just fucking sell bananas. It'll be the best-selling game of the last decade or whatever. It just will. So I know that Rockstar understands that. So, but I think they're also cognitive of, hey, we can also make more money on top of that too, which clearly is the reason why that they're moving away too, which isn't, I'm not saying is a bad thing, but why
the Mr. Krabs voice on the make more money.
Make more money. It's not a bad, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they're moved away from, hey, this is going to be a pre-order bonus. It's no longer the days of the GameCube whenever you pre-order the Wind Waker and you get the Ocarina of Time and Master Quest bundled in with that. That is now one of the most expensive GameCube games to buy because people just want that. It's so collectible. And we're talking for free. You're not getting that anymore. So it's understandable to see this, hey, we can make more money on this and put it out there. But I think they also see actually from okay, people really want this fucking game. They want GTA 6. We gotta give them something. And plus, too, we can make a lot of money on it. I know I'm probably gonna buy that trilogy when it comes out.
Absolutely.
If it's like $40,
as long as it's reasonable, yeah.
Right. If it's like $40, yeah, I'll fucking buy it. And I'm sure it's going to go on sale relatively quick. If it comes out in October, it's for sure going to be a Black Friday sale. That's how it is.
I feel like the remakes and remastered being. I know I'm kind of speaking for myself here, and I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like the remakes and remasters being $40 feels pretty fair.
Oh, 100%.
Right? They're not gouging the living shit out of you for a new game that
I felt very good about spending. Now, granted, I told you I had the much more internal debates on Diablo earlier, but for more moral reasons, but I felt very good about spending $40 on that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I totally fine. But I do think this is the more so the right answer to go with in terms of, hey, if we're gonna have this holdover for years to come now, from what it sounds like with Grand Theft Auto 6, like, yeah, people want to go back to this franchise and this, they want to get back there. And I think this is the appropriate thing to say, okay, well, at least we have some time in between now and then. You're going to get a re-release of, we're going to get a re-release of Grand Theft Auto 5 with new content and stuff like that from GTA Online, that is. And who knows, we may even get, I think if people, I don't want to say, hey, if you complain enough, but I think if people keep with the commotion of and the fervor around, hey, we want to see more single player content from GTA, whether it's more remasters, hey, give us a GTA 4 remaster, or remake or whatever you want to call it, or hey, give us a remake of GTA 1 in the GTA 3 engine or whatever, in Unreal Engine. Like, give us something like that maybe isn't the most, technically complex thing in 2021 or 2023 to make, or whatever you want to, whenever it would come out. But it's more, we can actually have something in that franchise to say, yeah, I'm excited about this. The conversation's still there. There's still focus on this while the behemoth down the road is coming. We know it's coming, but this will at least, hey, we're willing to keep putting more money into Rockstar and this franchise while we wait, who aren't necessarily GTA Online fans. So I think it is it's the right thing to do. In a sense of like, hey, this is what I think fans are going to be cool with. At least I would think so, as I like to think I have a pretty, across the board, I think I have a pretty standard view as a, modern gaming fan for the most part, a logical view that I would feel okay about this. I personally would feel okay with, like you said, spending $40 or whatever on this. So anyways, Mike, let's head into Party Chat before we wrap up this week's episode. If you're new to the show, Party Chat is where we propose one question at the end of each week that we just want to discuss with you. Could be as simple as, what's your favorite story beat in the game? What's your favorite game? What have you been playing during quarantine, or, the past year, I should say. Could be a little more in depth as to, what games could help mental health and, things like that. And then we'll kick it over to you after answering it ourselves to give us your answers and your responses to the question over on our Twitter at GPGC Podcast, or email us at bonusaccessory@gmail.com, and we'll read some of the responses the following week. Last week's question: do you see Microsoft landing a major deal with a third-party publisher, a major one, I should say, with a major title release like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, day one on Game Pass within the next year? And Mike F. emailed in saying, I could see one major title making its way to GP in the near future, either from Activision or Ubisoft. It's good to know, Mike. Thank you. Not you, Mike. The other Mike.
Yeah,
not
the
fucking
better
you.
Mike. Not scumfuck bastard Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike F, our boy Mike F.
Yeah, the prodigal son. This week's question: does Microsoft need huge sales numbers from Halo Infinite this holiday, or does Game Pass mitigate that need? What do you think, Mike?
I think Game Pass mitigates that need because they've been pumping content on Game Pass whether or not Halo has been selling, and it really hasn't been. So I think Game Pass kind of negates that. Mm-hmm. Microsoft doesn't need Halo anymore per se, but it'd be a hell of a lot nicer, and it would make the world would make a hell of a lot more sense if it did have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at this point, this release, like I've been saying, I think Halo now is becoming a platform, and I think Microsoft is wanting to make it that platform and saying clearly in the naming of Halo Infinite, this is going to be, at least on paper, a lot of people are thinking an infinite, for the foreseeable future, this is the game you're getting, and it's going to be updated, it's going to get content drops, things like that. And we've seen that at least from a multiplayer standpoint. Haven't gotten confirmation on campaign, but I think that's safe to say at this point. But I definitely think they're more worried about, like I said, they don't care how you play your games, just as long as you're playing their games. And more so, they just want to get you into their ecosystem. And they'll do that in any way possible. They spent $7.5 billion on it little under a year ago to, officially do that by bringing in Bethesda. So, like, to me, sales don't matter right now. It's more so not only registered users, but retention of those registered users. So in that,
that's the big thing with Halo,
right? And that's the thing. It's keeping them, and we've talked about that before. Of hey, it's going to be the hottest fucking game out on Twitch for 2 weeks for sure. It's first 2 weeks. It's going to be fucking hot in the streets, especially after how people responded so positively. Overall, I think I feel safe saying overall for this game in the tech preview that I think that's only going to ramp up as long as they keep, fucking batting through the lineup here, if you know what I mean. Like, as they get closer to launch, that
hitting her house.
That's right. Like, I really think they're gonna be able to kind of land that if they keep moving forward. So, hopefully, I'm trying to be positive with it. Hopefully that is the case, and they get hot in the streets, but it's keeping that momentum. It's giving people reasons to keep going back to, it's giving people reasons to keep going back to, that game, and more so that service, like retaining them, like anything like Netflix or whatever. Like, there's a reason why, they hope that you, forget about you paying for it every month, but also two, like, they give free trials. So then, okay, cool. You're in there. Hopefully you forget after the first month, but more so like, okay, like right now, and we'll wrap up after this, but, like we've had YouTube TV for a year now. We used it for the first couple months. I personally don't touch it. Like, I watch either Twitch, YouTube, like YouTube proper, I should say.
I used it.
Oh, I know you guys used it because I gave
during the NFL.
Yeah, and that's what I should say. For specific sports and things like that, like the Stanley Cup playoffs and things like that, like I like making sure I have them. And also too, it's kind of just like a continuous cycle here. But like I have my parents' Fubo TV login because they get AT&T Sports here in Pittsburgh that carry the Penguin games. So like, to me, it's more like now they get my YouTube TV and stuff like that. It's one of those things that
everyone shares.
But to the point now where, the crux of it is like, I don't really use YouTube TV. Molly uses it more than me, but even then, she doesn't use it a ton. That we ask, like, should we sign up for this? Like, should we just cancel it and sign up for it whenever there's the next, like, there's a show coming out on, standard cable TV that we want to watch, and we could just sign up for it again for the couple months and watch it that way or whatever. Like,
and then even then, Hulu has a lot of the shows
the next day or whatever. So I don't know. It's one of those things, but I definitely think it's only going to be more and more of, how do I want to say this? More and more of an emphasis put on giving you reasons to continue to invest in Game Pass compared to giving you reasons to go out and make sure you buy a physical copy or a digital copy of this. Now, that may lead people, and it's been proven so far, that people are more inclined to buy the game after playing it on Game Pass and whatnot, that, they seem like they have data to back up that, yeah, people are going out and buying these games after playing them on Game Pass and knowing, hey, I like them. If I ever quit on Game Pass, I want to make sure I still have the game. But more so, it's got to drive. They're more worried about driving people into the service than the sales of the actual game. So, anyways, Mike, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, talk about all the nerdy things we talked about today, including, obviously, Call of Duty Vanguard, talking about Halo, obviously, at times, talking Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar, all that jazz. Where can people find you on the internet to talk about everything we talked about today?
You can find me on Twitter at TOYSXLDIER. That's Toy Soldier, and the second O is an X. Or you can find me on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Nice. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms, including Travelus_ on Twitter. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travelus_, same as Twitter. And want to play some video games with me, do so over on regular old Travels on Xbox. That's TRAVLESS, no underscore. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been your newest episode of the Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, and, of course, PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz, wherever you get a podcast at. The whole rigmarole I tell you every week. Make sure you check us out there and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. Mike, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Thank you everyone so much for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. Game on, wash your hands, listen to the doctors, Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week.